My recovery looks like art. My recovery looks like storytelling. My recovery looks like meditation, mindfulness, vipassana, different therapies, and 12 steps. Still, like I still go to my, 12-step meetings, but it can be this thing where it's like this, almost we build an identity around it. Like in what I've learned about identities is when those identities are challenged, then we, speaking of the scribble, like now I'm in a scribble, like who am I? Like what do I believe in? Like, but ultimately, like no matter what your pathway is, like you showing up for yourself and doing this thing intentionally, I think is the common denominator between all of the tools that you can pick up and apply to your life.
Stories are powerful.
Welcome to the Rise, Recover, Live podcast, brought to you by The Phoenix. This is a space where people impacted by substance use can come to share their story of strength and resilience, get open and honest, and inspire hope and build community through shared experience.
We'll be talking to people in our community on their own recovery journey and shine a light on the topic of recovery in all its forms. Maybe you'll hear some of your story in theirs.
Let's show the world that together we rise, recover, and live.
Welcome, everybody, to yet another very special episode of the Rise, Recover, Live podcast. We are your hosts, Bryce III, he, him pronouns.
Liz McKean, she, her pronouns.
And why is this episode very special, Liz?
It is very special because we are not alone in this recording studio.
You set yourself up for that one. I'm sorry.
I know. I really liked it. So we're doing our second ever live recording. Second ever virtual live recording of the Rise, Recover, Live podcast. So we have a group of folks that have been so kind to take some of their day to join us as we record this episode and chit chat and be the chat of our little Zoom room here, and then also maybe possibly have some faces pop on later as we talk. And it's just so cool to be here with people. It's always cool to be here with you, Bryce. But
so I think it's been a minute since we've actually sat down and recorded.
We're rusty.
No, don't say
I'm rusty.
Because I ain't rusty. I just got back from Mobilized Recovery in DC, and we captured so many magnificent stories for you all. And I can't wait to get that stuff edited up and framed up in such a way that we can share it with you all, and you can experience all of the beautiful, heartwarming, touching, sometimes tragic stories that come out of this thing called recovery. And we got great video, and I just can't wait to share that with you all. And to pivot off of that, the realm of recovery in general, it is Recovery Awareness Month, correct?
There is. Yep. Last few days of it.
And so, so we're capping it off right now. And for me, Recovery Awareness Month means a ton of work because working in the field of recovery in general, when September come around, it's like you about to be boots on the ground, really working to contribute double time to different spaces, because it seems like this is the time where there's an exclamation point on recovery in America. And so there's the work aspect of recovery. But then there would be no work aspect of recovery if it wasn't for the personal relationship that we all individually have to recovery. And so I think that's kind of what I want to talk about today, just our own personal recovery journeys. And because this is the thing that I've come across where it's I've been in these rooms with practitioners, I've been in these rooms with organizations, and recovery can kind of take on this connotation of something that could be used to further people's agendas, to be used politically. And it's let's not get too far beyond this thing that I discovered when I didn't even know what I was looking for. I knew I needed something, but I didn't know exactly what it was that I needed. And I was asking for it, but I didn't know how to ask for it. And then when I found it, it improved my life in ways that I never could have predicted. And the word that came along with that was oh, this is recovery. Oh, snap. Well, I guess I'm in recovery then. But in that relationship, the relationship that we all have to that process looks different. And, we all come through different modalities, different pathways, different exposures, different experiences. So I kind of just wanted to take the space today to cap off Recovery Awareness Month with a conversation around what is recovery, what our relationship with recovery is. Yeah, what can that continue to mean to us moving forward?
Yeah. It's so funny. I think about the word recovery and I tend to put sobriety and recovery, like I use them almost interchangeably, even though they have very different feelings to me. Both though hold the feeling of like really deep pride and gratitude, proud of getting here and being part of this community, and then grateful to have, to have survived to be here. And it's so funny looking back. Those were words that I just wanted to avoid, was like embarrassed to be associated with, was didn't want, knew long before I was here, knew I needed to be here and didn't want to be here.
Mm.
Like I was like, this is not a life that I want. It's certainly not a life I want anybody to know that I have. And now to be in it and have it be so full of just, joy and community and life, uh, is just unbelievable. And then to be able to like talk about it out loud and have other people talk about it too and lift up other stories is just, I mean, it's like life is just crazy. It's amazing.
Joy, community, life. One, I think that's the importance of words. But two, like, just like recovery is a word, but then underlying that word is the substantial nature of the experience. But while we're speaking on words, if you can pop in the chat, those in this room, what are some words that come to mind when you think recovery? What are the words that come to mind for you when you think recovery? Throw it in the chat for me. And I think Liz, I'm super interested to see, like, where has recovery led you to? Like, where are you at now? Like, is your definition of day the same as it was when you first discovered this thing? And like, what has that process been?
Yeah, no, it's definitely not the same. And also wild where I am now, because I am like in a very full circle moment in life. I think the last few times we recorded were before I moved. I'm in Rochester now in New York, and it's my hometown. I spent the last 8 years in Tampa, Florida, and that was it. Well, I kind of got sober here in Rochester and then went to Tampa and kind of had that moment of, I'm in a different state now. So everything is different and I'm all better now,
Mhm.
And spoiler alert, that's not really the way it works out.
Mhm.
So then got sober in Tampa and really found that's when things kind of clicked in, and where I found the Phoenix and felt connected to a recovery community. I had done some outpatient treatment when I was here in New York. I had done 12-step here and there, both here and then down south, and nothing clicked and nothing felt like I wanted to be there. I remember I had a big poster on my little like vision board that I had in front of my desk for a long time when I was trying to figure all this out, and it was like, create a life that you want to be in.
Mm.
And I was just like, I don't even know what that looks like, because where I'm at, I don't want to be. And then like this idea of sobriety, recovery, I don't think I want that either. It just feels like the end. And then I found the Phoenix, and I saw people that were really psyched about being sober and all of a sudden start doing fun things without alcohol. And then recovery suddenly meant it was like my in. Like it felt like, I don't know how to describe it except for my ticket to the party, whereas I thought it was the end of the party, and suddenly I was invited into spaces that I didn't even know existed. And it just felt like creating a life that I actually wanted to be in. And then to have that full circle and be now back in New York and back in Rochester, back in my hometown, there's a lot of things that feel like, ooh, I had some really painful things happen, right there in that place. I can see the building where that happened, in a way that I didn't when I was in Florida. And it's amazing to be able to see that now and feel the difference, like that, like triggers, are different now. Like there's things that are like, ooh, I have that memory. And then also this okayness that I didn't have
Mm.
before. And to me, that is recovery. It's
Mm.
just like okayness. I don't know. I don't know if I'm describing that very well.
I think you most definitely are, and I think in describing our experience is super personal to like our experience.
Yeah. Yeah.
I can relate
Yeah.
to what you share. I think the making a life that we want to live in is like, especially in the beginning, you'd be like, oh yeah, the life that I was living was not a life that I want to live in. So like, let me create a life that I want to live in. And, then I do that and I look around and it's like, okay, dope. Like we here.
Yeah.
What I learned is that it is continuously creating a life that I want to live in, because maybe the life that I created that I wanted to live in and sat in for a minute, it's like, okay, not that I don't want to live in this life, but like there's new requirements now. Like there's new things that I've learned that I need. The deeper I heal, the more it turns up, and the more that turns up, the more compassion I gotta have. And in that compassion, maybe I discover something new about myself, and maybe there's a new ask of my spirit for me to show up for me and what it is that I desire, or show up for life on life's terms. Like that's a big thing. So when we was talking about drop something in the chat. Ivory Keys said recovery mean life to me. Danny K said new way of life. Eugene said life on life's terms. Ivory Keys said recovery used to be confinement to me, but now it means liberation.
It just gave me goosebumps. Whew.
Freedom, walking the line. And I think life on life's terms is big for me, just because like I started to live a life of intentionality. Does not mean that life doesn't stop doing like what it does. And I'm finding myself right now in life. We had a conversation kind of offline where there's some things happening in life, and I'm noticing it's time to do some spiritual work because I'm starting to count the catastrophes. And that's not the life I want to live. I don't want to live looking for the other shoe to drop. Like, even though there's some shoes that's happening, that's dropping, it doesn't necessarily always have to be another shoe. And like I told you, like, a cat ran away, and it's like, like Nyland, if you could hear this, man, come home with it. Where are you at? And that kind of like sent me a little bit. And it's a couple other things going on, and it's just like I found myself being in this, like martial arts, right? So you got different stances. I don't know the stances because I'm not a martial artist.
You did it though. That was cool.
I mean, that's because I used to like watch Jackie Chan movies and pretend like I knew what I was doing when I was a kid. If y'all could see, I used to do this all the time. Yeah, it's like different stances that prepare you for different ways to show up for life. And there's this stance that can take place if I'm not intentional, where it's like my stance is like I'm bracing. I don't even talk to me because like I'm wincing even when you open your mouth, because I think that the pattern shows that we're on a negative trajectory. And like I have to like feed myself. Like I have to feed myself spiritual food to allow me to look at a life where it's like, okay, around the corner, I might get a call for something great. Somebody might hit me up for this, or, somebody's going to tell me some good news today, or I might go outside and I might see a frog in the street and it might be the coolest frog or whatever. You know what I'm saying? Like that type of stance. But like that takes me to be intentional. And that's kind of where I'm at in my life now. Like what of my tools do I have to be able to tap into to make sure I'm feeding myself that spiritual food that gives me the ability to stand in that stance of like hope, faith, believing that the best is yet to come, believing that right now is the best time to be. You got things like gratitude in many forms, and being able to like lean into that, whether it be gratitude list or having friends that like are oriented towards like, yo, this food that we are, everybody got that one friend where you go out and they just like, this chair is the best chair I done ever sat in. It's like, you know what? These chairs is comfy than a mug. Like, yes, getting around those people, my men's group, like it's making sure that I'm really, really, really like intentionally bringing that in, because I need that. And I mean, we can call that recovery. And like, this is just the intentional way of living that I've been shown that allows for me to show up for life on life's terms, like Eugene said.
Yeah, I find that so many people that are part of the Phoenix community in particular tends to be people who show up for others in a really big way. And it's easy to get into the habit. And that is spiritual food, right? Like that is like, this is a thing now. That is a thing that I think fills me up. I feel like it fills a lot of us up is showing up for other people. Service is a big part of recovery, I think, in a lot of people's pathways. But I think also we can get so in that lane, that groove of like that service mindset, that when you do have those moments where you need to maybe take some time and go to your men's group, not to lead it, just to be in it. And maybe you need to take a break and find, instead of 5 minutes for a meditation, or even just to read a few chapters of a book, like maybe you need an hour, maybe you need a day, and taking those, making the choices that are just for you, be the harder thing to do.
Yeah, or like mixing the flavors, because that's another thing too, where like things used to be super linear for me when I first got here. Things were black and white. You're either in service or you're being lazy, or you're either, in gratitude or you're anxious. You know what I'm saying? It's like, no, sometimes I'm grateful and I'm still anxious as hell. You know what I'm saying? Like,
more than one thing could be true.
and so, like, in service, I think for you to mention that, I think it's important for me to lean into service, but maybe service without an objective. Because even like going out to DC, like I was serving the community by allowing for a space for people to share their stories and working to build a platform to elevate those stories so that the larger community can be able to tap into community and maybe hear their story or hear stories that don't sound like theirs, but then expand their understanding of the human experience. And in that, like, I'm still like here to produce a show. You know what I'm saying? There's still that like objective, but like the going up the street to the soup kitchen, or like taking my mans to a meeting, like there's no objective for that. And like in that, maybe he shares stories that's like, oh, maybe my stuff isn't that bad, or like, it just gets me outside of here. So the service without an objective, which is like the mixing the colors, because it's like, oh, you think service, you think there's a point to it, and it's like, maybe it's not, and it doesn't have to be.
I love that. Yeah, I just want to read a couple things that just hopped into the chat because they're so good. Yeah, Danny is talking about how being of service helps, and volunteers in several places, including the Phoenix. Ivory, I love this. I finally allowed people, places, and things to fill me up as much as I've always filled them up. I'm finally absorbing. It's awesome. That's so good. And okay, there's a metaphor that I feel like it's making sense in my brain. It's going to come out, and we shall see if it actually makes sense. But the idea of like a sponge. So you ever have like a dry sponge, like dry, like bang 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 on the desk. You'd be able to hear it. Yeah. And if I like poured water onto that sponge and it was dry like that, like the water would just splash off, right? Because it's just like, what I'm talking about? Like those dry shriveled up sponges that are just hard. If I poured water on it, nothing's happening. But I have to like soak it a little bit. Or if I even get it like damp, even it starts to absorb, then suddenly it'll absorb more. Like a dry sponge, like can't even take anything in because it's just so dry. Whereas like you get that little bit of moisture, little bit of something, and then all of a sudden it can soak all the rest in. So got to keep yourself with that little bit of, you got to make sure you still have enough in you, or else everything's going to splash right off. Did it work?
Keep yourself moist, people. Stay moist.
I know how people feel about that word. I'm so sorry. I was like, as soon as it came, I was like, ooh, let me not use that word. Oh no, sorry, Erica. Ivory gets me. That's awesome. Well, thank you for hearing it. It worked out. A very kind audience. It made sense in my brain.
Yeah. I hear you.
Yeah.
I hear you. So what are the ways? I hope I'm hearing you, because I'm about to like. So what are the ways you stay moist, Liz?
How about we just say, when we just keep our sponge absorbent? Oh no, we're gonna put like a trigger warning for this episode just because we've used that word many times. Good Lord. Rusty. I would say it's those regular habits. So I've got to keep up with, getting a good night's sleep, right? Like I do yoga. I need to like go for walks. I need to spend time with my husband. So those are the things that are just like, literally I need to make sure that I'm drinking enough water. Like, see, kind of overlap the metaphor there into literal world. So I need to make sure that I'm doing like the regular take care of myself things all the time. That way there's space for if I need, like I took a few extra days off with this move that usually would be really hard for me to do. And that felt so good. Like I was allowed to like really relax into that, where if, you get to the point, definitely had this happen too, where I haven't done any of those take care of myself things day to day. Like I'm not getting enough sleep. I'm, completely overwhelmed and skipping yoga classes. I'm, not spending time with the people that I love, those things. I'm just completely dried out entirely. And then it gets to the point you just crash into a wall, right? And it's going to take way more than a couple days to come back from that. It's going to take weeks because I was just completely depleted. If I stay at that like kind of level, taking care of myself in recovery and in life, which it sounds like a lot of us, life and recovery are really the same. Then when I do, when I add on the extra, the extra care, the extra bit of water, it's a lot easier for that to absorb and fill me up in a way that maybe it wouldn't be able to otherwise.
Yeah, I think, and I came up with this the other day because of how I was feeling. And I think so. I call this the scribble. All right. So in life, like maybe I define where it is that I'm going. I don't know if y'all can see that, but maybe like I define where it is that I'm going, and it kind of looks like a booty. But I define
Bryce is holding up his phone, everyone.
I define where it is that I'm going, right? And so that's what my starting point. And so then I get to moving, and as I'm getting to moving, like I move in a straight line. I wouldn't call it like a linear straight line, but I'm moving, right? And then I'll hit a point, and it's like, where am I? Who am I? Am I still in alignment with what I set out to do? Am I still excited about things? Like, do I still care about the things I used to? And then slowly but surely, I get to moving again. As I get to move again, like I start to untangle that scribble, and then I get back in line. And then, I move a little bit more, and before you know it, there's another scribble, And so I call it the scribble. And I think scribbles happen anyway. Like a scribble gonna happen, especially if we live intentionally. Like now, I asked the question, what do I want? And now I'm responsible for like creating that, So scribbles are gonna happen intentionally. And I think they're the precursor to clarity. The moments of crisis, every time I've experienced crisis, what followed with like the integration in my community, and leaning into my community that helped me is a new level of clarity. But there are some scribbles that I've hit that were maybe not avoidable, but preventable at the extent of which they hit because I didn't take care of myself. Because I was just autopilot, because I was just eating BS, because I wasn't picking up the phone and practicing what it's like to pick up a phone, because I wasn't reading, because I wasn't feeding, stuff. Some of those scribbles can be like, okay, maybe it's a little less to untangle. Like I can be less of a contribution to a scribble, but I think scribbles are going to happen. Like when we're living a life where we're showing up for ourselves in a new way, like there's going to be time where like there's confusion. There's life will even deliver us external circumstances that can lead to crisis. But as we continue to build the tools, we'll have the tools to be able to help us to work through it. And I'm not even gonna hold you. Like we're talking about recovery, so like pure transparency. Like like I felt those, like I want to give up. And I felt that recently. You know what I'm saying? Like this sucks. You know what I'm saying? This sucks. And it's not like I want to kill myself, right? But it's just it's that feeling that maybe previously before I had the tools that I have now, like that's what where I would have landed. Like I don't want to do this anymore, But what now, like what that's the precursor to is me, like we talked about in the beginning, finding that spiritual food to feed me making sure that I use even public platforms like this to be completely honest and transparent so that people see me everywhere I go. You see me, hold me accountable, like maybe give me a phone call after this conversation. You know what I'm saying? Like, and then that, like inevitably what ends up happening is I make it on the other side of this scribble with clarity.
Yeah. And saying it out loud like that is, it gives other people that reminder that they're not alone and that we all have those moments and those scribbles and, different levels of intensity and different levels of emergency, and to continue to show up and be in community, is the way to I think to get through it, to know that it's okay to not be okay. Erica said in here, it's also okay to take care of yourself just for the sake of taking care of yourself. And I think
Mm,
that's, I mean, yeah, like, yeah.
mm. You see what
Oh,
Danny
yeah.
said? So Danny said, sometimes I got to take me time in order to recharge, sort of say, because if I continue to give, I'm going to just burn myself out. I got to make sure I take care of myself first and I can help others. That's why they say to put your mask on the plane, then help others.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah,
Yeah.
Eugene says, I make sure that I have outlets. I'm curious, Eugene, what are those outlets? I'm always open to new outlets. I swear I'm doing something new every time I turn around because that's a thing too, like being receptive, being open.
Yeah.
This is a process that never ends. Life is a thing that never ceases to amaze me in tons of ways. And I mean, you never know. Like the sky could crack open today, and aliens from the world Bugajort could come down. And now, like, I live in this life. Like this is my reality. And so, how do I show up for that? You know?
That just made my chest go like get a little tighter. Like no sky, just keep stuff under control for another day. Um, yeah, no, I think that keep staying open is a really big one too for me. Because I tend to get into mindset. I know Ivory, I'm with you. I get in the mindset of if I find something that works or that feels right. Honestly, like this honestly is one of those things that every once in a while I'm like, of course I end up having an issue with substance disorder. Is that if something feels good, I'm like, I've better just do this all the time. This better be just this is just my life now. This is just who I am now, And sometimes that, I mean, that's certainly not served me well. And then also there's times that I'm like, all right, I did this yoga class on a Wednesday at 6:30 a.m. And now for the rest of it, I put it on my calendar now, repeating Wednesdays to never end. Wednesdays at 6:30 a.m. I do this yoga class. So it's, which makes you not want to be open to do things because it's like, if I do this, I'll have to do it forever. And that is not the case.
Can we talk?
Right.
Can we talk about that real quick though? Because I don't know if I've ever heard that spoken out loud. Like
Really?
when I find things that it's like this feels really good, like
Yeah.
I will dive in. And
Yeah. Forever and ever. Amen.
what has ended up happening previously is there's been things where like I dove in and then it ended up having the opposite effect on me because I did it too much.
Yes. Or
Like,
it becomes you have to. Like,
yeah, or it's not doing what it used to do, and and then it's like now I'm sad, because and it's almost like this thing I was using that made me feel good, like it's starting to wear off, and I'm getting sad because it doesn't do it. Like I can't depend on it anymore.
yeah.
And that can happen with they happen. I'm not gonna say names, but like there was this spiritual teachers. And like I really dove in because I'm like, it took me a minute to even like be receptive to like the teachings. But then when I my receptivity enhanced and I'm like, oh, and I started listening. And like every night when I went to bed, like every day, all day, like I'm just listening. And then somewhere along the line, like I burnt out and I just couldn't listen anymore. I couldn't listen anymore. And maybe that was just like the sign that I needed to integrate the experience. But like I had to put it down, and so now I try like just recently Bob Proctor has been like on repeat in my stuff. And I just made sure like, okay, that's enough Bob Proctor right now because I don't want to burn out on Bob Proctor because there's some heavy, impactful teaching that I wanted to continue to impact me. So let me like pace myself.
Yeah. No, that makes sense. And I think that's, we had talked a little bit before this, maybe even after we hit record about multiple pathways, about all the different pathways of recovery, and I think that's something that I think we all can find ourselves in where it's like, this is a thing I do for recovery. And now this is the thing that I do for recovery forevermore. And like the beautiful thing about recovery and life and, I mean, honestly, like the time that we're living in where there are a lot of recovery communities and pathways and things that you can do to support your recovery. How many times can I say that word in one speech? It is okay. Like, I used to do Phoenix to me was Sunday morning CrossFit. And I did that for a really long time, even though CrossFit had never been a thing that I'd done before. But I started to feel for a while like that this is the thing that I do for recovery. And then I found other things within Phoenix that I enjoy doing. And I've signed up for various things online, groups that are recovery based in completely different than what Phoenix does. And it's been cool to have the freedom to try different things. And every single time I adopt something new, I have to have a whole conversation with myself that it's like, it doesn't mean that I have to give up this other thing forever. That doesn't mean something has failed. That doesn't mean I have failed. That doesn't mean this is something I have to do now forever. It's like this real intentional in conversation I have to even continue to do that.
Yeah. Yeah, every single bit of that. And I think like recovery is this thing that we build such a personal relationship to.
Yeah.
And in a lot of instances, it has saved our lives. So somebody like me who went to rehab, in rehab, and I was opiates and prescription pills, all that. So I'm in rehab, and I'm like, okay, everybody's saying NA, so I'm in there, and I pick up the NA book, and then I get out of rehab. I was supposed to go to NA book or NA meeting the day I got out, and I ended up being late to it. So there was a later meeting, but it was an AA meeting. I found my family there, and then they gave me an AA book, and then I was AA, for life. Like that's what really like the 12 step of Alcoholics Anonymous is what is my personal recovery pathway, and that's where the journey began. And then about 7 years into 12 step, like I started to like lean into different therapies, and I had to, there was a real deep conversation that I had to have with myself. Like, does this mean that I'm no longer like in recovery because I'm doing this now? Like I'm in this, I'm pursuing this path. And I had to have this conversation with myself. I think it's that relationship that we build with this thing that saved our life, especially something that can be like rigorously like do it how we did it. And if you don't do it that way, then, you're not that. And it's like, it can be taken like that. And it's like, but recovery for me has been this, it's like a flower, like it continuously blossoms. And in its blossoming, it needs different nutrients through different seasons. And so as I'm out in life and I connect with you all and I see you all out in public and you all tell me how it is that you've recovered and you share your practices with me, like how I asked you, Jen, like share some of those practices. I might hear something that has helped you and now I can implement it into my life and now it becomes a part of my recovery. So nowadays, my recovery looks like art. My recovery looks like storytelling. My recovery looks like meditation, mindfulness, vipassana, different therapies, and 12 steps still. Like I still go to my, 12 step meetings, but it can be this thing where it's like this, almost we build an identity around it. Like in what I've learned about identities is when those identities are challenged, then we, speaking of the scribble, like now I'm in a scribble, like who am I? Like what do I believe in? Like, but ultimately, like no matter what your pathway is, like you showing up for yourself and doing this thing intentionally, I think is the common denominator between all of the tools that you can pick up and apply to your life.
Yeah. I'm just reading what Ivory said here, which I'm obsessed with, not only because it speaks to what you just said and what we've been talking about, but also because she's taking two of our metaphors and putting them together into one comment, which makes me very happy because we're all about the metaphors here. That rigor caused my scribbles and took me out every time. So her absorption is absolutely so unique to your own recovery.
Well, Bruce Lee used to say, like, be like water. Like you could put water in a cup and it takes the shape of the cup. You could put water in an ocean and it's strong and big and powerful. So my recovery, life on life's terms, has required me to be able to show up for some interesting circumstances. And in that, like, those different circumstances require different things from me. And if things require things from me, then it's like I need my fuel to be able to show up for life.
Do we want to bring on somebody and see if we can hear a little bit about recovery and their journey?
On that note, recovery looks so different to so many different people. And we'd be excited if somebody in the chat would want to come and join us. It's cool if you don't. If you do, we'd love to talk to you and kick it with you and have you on this episode for those listening to this episode to be able to hear you and your story and what recovery means to you. So jump in the chat and let us know if you want to come on. Meanwhile, I think, so how's your energy today, Liz?
My energy today is I'm a little tired. So just quite literally in the sense I'm a little bit lower energy, but also, yeah, just settling back in, I'm in this new space physically. And then also we haven't recorded for a little while. So getting back in the groove of that, I'm in a different space recording. And yeah, so kind of just taking it all in and TBD, I think. How about you?
Well, I think you're doing pretty damn good for somebody who hasn't podcasted in quite a while.
Well, thank you. Well, and thank you too. Like that mobilized recovery that Bryce was just talking to. We were both going to be at that, and I thought I was going to do this whole big move cross country or up the country. I don't know if it's still cross if it's on the same coast, and then like the next day hop on a plane, and my wonderful partner and co-host, who I just could not do this without, just took it on without me. Said cancel that trip, cancel your plane.
Yeah, no, yeah. Once again, rather take care of yourself in the moment before you hit a scribble that you could have prevented, or at least turned the volume down on.
Yeah.
Then we got Danny about to come on with us and kick it with us.
Yay! Oh yeah, and a little behind the scenes, Danny. As we're figuring out technology, we thought we were in a practice space earlier, and we were not. And Danny was just so kindly, just patiently waiting while we all just figured out our whole recording space here. So we love Danny.
There we go.
We are technology geniuses, is what we are. Welcome, Danny. How are you?
Danny, how you feeling?
A little anxious, but I'm all right. I'll settle down. How are you guys?
Good. You know what they say, the body does the same thing when it's excited as it does when it's or as it does when it's anxious. I'm saying that because Liz loves that saying.
It's a go-to now.
Where you coming from? Where you calling in from? Yeah.
I'm from Rochester, New York.
Rochester, New York. So we got the Rochester squad on the call right now.
Mm-hmm.
So Danny, what does recovery mean to you?
Recovery to me means rebuilding a life that was meant for a purpose. Finding your purpose, your meaning of life. I know for me that I started off, it wasn't a great start in life. I was definitely introduced to drugs and alcohol very early. As life progressed, I definitely had some dark times. But once I was introduced to, the program and all the, the resources of recovery, I definitely found my way, sort of say. Like I said in chat, that helping others definitely helps me. But yeah.
Yeah, right around this way we call it a selfish selflessness. And that was one of the first things for sure for me that like got me out of the old ticker. The old ticker got me up out of there where it's like, okay, people are looking at me like I'm capable. And I didn't even know that I had the capability to be capable, And so the more I showed up, the more I kind of leaned into this version of me that other people see me as. And it's like, I had to borrow their perception. And, even beyond how people see us and like just like being of use. Like I can make the coffee and y'all gonna drink it because I'm sure it was terrible. That ability, those pockets of like welcoming me in and allowing me to serve were very helpful to me in the beginning.
Yeah. I do a lot of service. It definitely service helps me a lot too. I have a home group. I got a sponsor. I started off doing, greeting, shaking. I have trouble talking to people, so that was like my sponsor said that was the perfect position for me to start off, because I had to talk to people, I had to shake people's hands and all that. But as it moved on, I went up to the coffee, and then right now I do a lot of Zoom. I'm in a halfway house right now. I'm coming up on 10 months. So
Hey,
Oh yeah.
yeah, going strong. Definitely.
congratulations. That's big.
Yeah, so I'm on my Zoom home group. I just actually took over the secretary's position. I'm hosting meetings, and I never would have thought that I would be trusted,
Mm,
with those responsibilities, before. And that is it's definitely humbling, but it's also exciting, because of the people you get to meet and the family that you get to build. Because the people that I see every day I love them.
yeah.
It's like it's amazing. So
Mm. No, that's beautiful. It's often it's still like people ask me to watch their babies and invite me to parties, and it's like, dude, this is crazy. This is crazy. But I think like too, and thank you for coming on and sharing a bit of your story. But I think like you
of course,
are an example of recovery in action. Like how you said, like I didn't like to talk to people. So I took the position, my sponsor said, take the position where you talking to people. Like, and a lot of times where I was shown in the beginning was like, practice the opposite, practice the opposite of what it is that you feel. A lot of the stuff that are like intuitive for me now were like counterintuitive when I came in, and I just acted like it was something that I wanted to happen. And so even in like raising your hand to come on here, like sharing that you was a bit
yeah,
anxious when you came on, but still being willing to come and share your story, like that's like even beyond the words that you said, like this is what this thing is, so I commend you and thank you for coming to share.
yeah, it's a program of action. And thank you guys for hosting.
Mm,
It's been an honor. So
mm.
thank you.
Oh, absolutely our pleasure. Yeah, just echoing Bryce. Thank you for coming on, for being here, and for being part of the community. And trusting us with the technology that's one of those ways that we show up. We're like, we're gonna just trust that this works. And people seem to trust us, and it's amazing.
No, but
Of course.
it worked beautifully, and I think yeah, somebody's gonna hear this episode and hear you share about your experience, relate to it, but also relate to like just who you are. So thanks for coming on, Danny.
Yeah.
I hope so. Thank you, guys.
We're gonna get better at this as we go. We're gonna keep doing these. So thank you for being here and being patient with us, and both for folks who are here in person and also listening.
And it's VIP status because it's like, y'all attending this live, like a lot of this stuff, like the transitions are gonna get cut up and chopped up, but you all are like in the green room, you're a VIP. We need to get you a shirt that says I was there from the jump. I'm a day one.
Oh, heck yeah. Yeah, shirts. We're gonna do that. We're gonna do that eventually. We're working on it. It is in the works.
Yeah.
What do you think, Bryce? We did it?
I think this is a conversation that could go on for 20,000 more hours, but I think for this specific conversation, I think we did. I think we did.
Yeah. Amazing.
I
Wow.
think we did. I think there's like a level, like there's a certain line before like you like journey into like a personal therapy session, because it's like, this thing doesn't stop. We are like, that's why there's community. That's why this podcast, that's why this episode, so that people can hear this in Alaska, people can hear this in South Africa. Like there's so many people that aren't a part of the conversation yet that are having these experiences and can relate to what it all that everybody here has experienced. And community is one of those things that helps us to be able to do it and stick it in. So I'm grateful for the platform. I'm grateful for you all showing up for the live. I'm grateful for you, listener to the podcast, who's listening to the edited version that we put up. Like you all tuning in, you all sharing these episodes, you all giving this to somebody, like that is work. Like that's the service work. Like that is how we continue to make ripple effects in the community. So thank you.
Definitely echo that. Ivy mentioned in the chat, what about our final question, which Ivy is a listener. We love Ivy. So Bryce, if you could reach back in time and send some words to a previous version of you, as we close, what would those words be?
I would have went to me on Saturday, right before you went into Orange Theory, and would have told him, don't do them damn weighted bridges, because you're going to throw your back out. Like, just take it easy. My man's right next to you. He's going to be doing it like a banshee, making it look easy. But you, sir, you'll overextend yourself. So don't do it. But because that's not the case, I'm going to just heal. I'm going to just heal nice and slow.
Yeah. Good. See, it doesn't even have to be any further back than that. I would, second that. If I could go back, I would do the same thing. I'd be like, Liz, step aside. Bryce, don't do that. Don't do that weighted bridge. I gotta get on a phone call. Well, cool. Well, I think we are going to end there. And just echoing everything Bryce said. Thank you for being here. If you have not already, please be sure that you do find the podcast wherever you listen to podcasts. You can do that on Apple Podcasts, Spotify. You can also do it straight from the Phoenix website and on YouTube. So find us, give us a subscribe. If you'd be so kind to give us a rating, it makes a big difference. We drop episodes every Tuesday morning, and we'll catch you next time.
Catch you next go.
So now you're excited. Bryce, Liz, how do I get involved with the Phoenix? Well, my friend, it is super simple. We actually have an app. Head over to the Google Play Store or the Apple App Store, or look in the show notes of this podcast, wherever you're listening to or watching this podcast, and go download the Phoenix app.
The Phoenix app makes it so easy to find classes that are near you, or to access our virtual class schedule where you can hop on from the comfort of your home. You can also join our groups and have a conversation with someone from the Phoenix community from anywhere in the world. Please make sure that you join the podcast group where you can connect with Bryce and I and other listeners. Everything that you need is in the show notes. You can also head to our website at www.thephoenix.org. And maybe while you're there, you click the volunteer tab and get even more involved.